This presentation is about superior and subordinate relationships between the users in your organization. Superior and subordinate relationships gives you the ability to set up the chain of command, if you wish, or reviewer relationships. When a certain employee in your company reports to a superior for example, review of the work that that employee was doing, or for billing purposes. For example, you have many CPAs who are serviced by a special dedicated billing person for whatever work that they have done, or you have an administrative assistant who again helps multiple users with any type of administrative work. So in, the superior and subordinate relationships gives you the ability to escalate a certain task within your project, not to a user directly, but to the superior of that user. Let's take an example. Here, this is a list of two superiors that the support user is having. So I'm logged in as support. This is my account record, and I have two superiors. One is John Smith Jr. and the other one is Paul Shaw. So I report to John Smith, who supervises my work, and I report to Paul, who does all the billings for my clients. Now, Paul can also be superior for other users for the billing purposes, and John can also be superior for other people like me, because John is in charge of reviewing the, for example, personal tax returns done by any accountant, including myself. This organization structure helps not only to capture the existing roles and responsibilities inside your office, but it also helps you organize the workflow and create workflow rules that will be assigning the work to the reviewer or for the person in charge of the billing, depending on who actually did this work for this client. And different clients may have different people working on their returns. Let me show you an example how it works out in real life. I have a template here of tasks for preparing a 1040 tax return. So a 1040 tax return has 8 tasks. Well, obviously this is all customizable, but for this particular demo, we will be looking at the owner column, which designates the employee in the organization that will receive this task. So let's take a look at how it works. When you create a 1040 tax return, a first task is assigned to the client representative of that user. A client representative is a designated person who normally talks to the client or requests the information from client. Client knows him, right? And so it's a person in charge of any client communications, and that person gets the information from the client, and then he or she scans the document, and then a prepared tax return task is done by whoever does the tax return for this particular client. It could be anybody in your office who is assigned to this client as a tax preparer. And here is the supervisory relationship. So imagine the work has been done and we need to review the tax return. So what do? Obviously, many people were involved into the preparation of the tax return. Tax client representative as well as the tax preparer. And the reviewer needs to review the work done by both people, making sure that the relevant information was collected, as well as the tax preparation was done without any mistakes. And in this case, we escalate this task to the superior of the client representative. The superior of the client representative is the manager who is in charge of the client accounts in general. So the client rep, again, is the person who talks to a real client, and different clients can have different client reps, but a client superior can be one or two partners who are actually in charge of making sure that all client-related work has been done according to the company quality standards. And so they can review the work done by many other people, not necessarily just tax preparers, but they just make sure in bulk that all information regarding to this client is complete, intact, and there are no mistakes. In this way, we ensure that the work is escalated up the command chain to the partner of the company who will make a final decision whether the work done by multiple people involved into this project has been done correctly. And again, as you can see in the workflow rules, we're talking about relationships. We're talking about the relationships between the client and your staff, and we talk about the relationships between your staff members. So if you have a larger company, for example, 50 different people working on different tasks, or even 100 different people working on different types of clients, preparing different type of work, you can create rules that will escalate up the command chain and end up with the person who's in charge, either facing the client or who will be in charge of internal review work of the people who report to him directly, either from the point of view of compliance, from the point of view of billing, or from the point of view of any type of administrative work, making sure that all the paperwork is in place, and so forth. So that way you can not only automate your workflow, but you can also automate your compliance. You can automate your review work, ensuring that the work is routed not only across your client assignees, but also up and down the command chain, ensuring that people in your office who are in charge of quality control are assigned at different steps of the project, ensuring that the quality control checks, as well as other checks that may happen, compliance or billings or anything of that matter, have been fulfilled, and they can release the project to the next step, which would be either to invoice a client or file a final return, and so forth. We will talk more about how these roles are set up in the workflow rules in a separate demo. And in this particular demonstration and presentation, we conclude that the superior and subordinate relationships, again, this is where you define them. This does not have any relationship to an actual client. It is a relationship of employees inside your company, and that relationship is used inside the workflow to ensure the quality control checks as you go through the workflow. And please see other presentations on the actual workflow rules set up in a separate section of our presentations. Thank you.